To get started with troubleshooting common issues with Azure SQL Active Directory authentication, it is essential to understand the basics of Azure Active Directory and Azure SQL Database. Azure Active Directory is a comprehensive identity and access management solution that provides a robust set of capabilities to manage identities and access to resources. Azure SQL Database is a cloud-based relational database that supports a wide range of database management tasks. One common issue with Azure SQL Active Directory authentication is the inability to connect to the database due to authentication errors. This can occur when the Azure Active Directory administrator account is not properly configured or when the user account does not have the necessary permissions to access the database. To resolve this issue, ensure that the Azure Active Directory administrator account is correctly set up and that the user account has the required permissions. Another common issue is the failure to authenticate due to expired or invalid credentials. This can happen when the Azure Active Directory token has expired or when the user's credentials are incorrect. To resolve this issue, try re-authenticating with the correct credentials or renewing the Azure Active Directory token. Firewall rules can also cause issues with Azure SQL Active Directory authentication. If the firewall rules are not correctly configured, they can block the connection to the database. To resolve this issue, ensure that the firewall rules are properly set up to allow connections from the required IP addresses. To troubleshoot issues with Azure SQL Active Directory authentication, start by checking the Azure Active Directory configuration and the user account permissions. Then verify that the credentials are valid and not expired. Finally, check the firewall rules to ensure they are correctly configured. Best practices for Azure SQL Active Directory authentication include regularly reviewing and updating the Azure Active Directory configuration, ensuring that user accounts have the necessary permissions, and monitoring the firewall rules to prevent unauthorized access. By following these best practices and understanding the common issues with Azure SQL Active Directory authentication, you can ensure a secure and reliable connection to your Azure SQL database.